Welcome to American Dreams, Keys to Success, with your host, Alan Olson.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Scott McNealy. Scott co-founded Sun Microsystems and served as the CEO and chairman of the boards for close to 30 years.
Yep, that's a long time.
Well, welcome to today's show, Scott.
Great to be here.
Scott, why did you start Sun Microsystems, or what was the premise behind co-founding this company?
Well, I'm a believer, and there was a book written a long time ago about accidental empires, and it was not exactly my life's plan, nor in any part of my dream. I remember seeing Convergent Technologies had a billboard on Highway 237, and it had, "Congratulations, Convergent Technologies, on $100 million in sales," and I couldn't believe all the zeros. And a while later, that was, a pretty good month or something for us. So it was a big surprise, and it kind of happened because a buddy of mine, Vinod Khoslas, wanted to go start a new company, and I'd introduced him to an investor who said that he would invest. And I went out to McDonald's with Vinod after, and he said, "So when are you quitting your job?" I said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "I don't have an offer." He said, "You're a founder. You don't get an offer. You're a founder." So the next morning I went in and quit my job. It was the beauty of being single and young and slightly ignorant.
So jumping into this, I guess you had the real entrepreneurial spirit. Did you have like a plan or the concept about how you wanted this company to
No, I would not say my career was very planful. I went to Harvard undergrad, worked for a couple of years for FMC Corporation, building tanks and making Corvette hoods and other plastic parts, went back to business school at Stanford, came out, went to work for FMC Corporation, worked on their corporate manufacturing staff in Chicago, fell in love with a secretary out here in San Jose at the tank plant that was by the airport back in the old days. And I said, either you move me out there or I quit. So they moved me out there. A couple months later, I quit because I got a job in manufacturing at a little startup building computers. It was Onyx. It was the first company to put Unix on a microprocessor. And 10 months later, Vinod called me up and said, "Let's go check this out." And I started at Sun with two other founders. And Vinod and I had an argument about who ought to be CEO. And I had 3 years business experience, which was more than the other three founders combined. But Vinod had done a startup right out of business school, so we made him CEO. He left after a couple of years, and I took over temporarily. And 22 years after that, we finally found a new CEO.
How did you know you had a real winner with Sun? When it, at what point did this thing really start to take off?
Well, we incorporated on February 24th, 1982, and we had a product that was a prototype out of Stanford, the Stanford University Network, hence Sun Workstation. And we started selling that to other universities who wanted to buy Andy Bechtolsheim's Sun Workstation. We were profitable in May of 1982.
Wow.
Very, very rare, especially in this day of Instagrams and YouTubes and all the rest of it that are selling for billions of dollars with no revenue. We were profitable. We actually had revenue and were making money literally a few months after. And we got started, get this, on $285,000 worth of loan guarantees. And then later that year, after we were profitable, we raised another $4 million in venture capital, and it just took off. First full year we did, I think it was $8.9 million in revenue. The second year we did $39 million. The third year we did $115 million. Then we did $239 million, and then we did $500 million, and then we did $1 billion. That's how quickly we got to $1 billion in revenue. So
was that by 5 years? Is that?
Oh yeah, something like that. It went really fast, and a lot of hours, and it was a pretty crazy run.
So who was the primary buyer for the Unix at that time? What was driving your growth?
It started off in universities and academic and research people who wanted really powerful engineering workstations. Then over time, as we added NFS, the network file system, and we were TCP IP based, we were the first company to put Unix on a workstation. We were the first company to put TCP IP into every workstation and server that we sold. At one point, we figured out, why don't we take the monitor off and not sell it as a workstation, but sell it as a file server and a web server. We had Route D, which is a Unix command that we were the original Cisco router. So blame me for missing the Cisco router business, but we were quite busy doing servers. And then eventually we moved into the internet space with marrying Java with the Netscape browser, and we became the .and .com, and then the big bubble, and all the rest of it. So it was quite a ride.
We're here today visiting with Scott McNealy, the co-founder of Sun Microsystems, and as we review the history of Sun, we're going to go into the next segment of the finality of where Sun is today. We'll be right back after these messages.
Nothing's more important than spending time with your family.
At Greenstone Rogoff Olson Company, we're trusted advisors to the highly successful. Our goal is to help you find the right strategy to protect your wealth for yourself and those you love. Kids, why do I feel like I've just had an audit?
As trusted advisors to the highly successful, we'll make sure that you don't lose your shirt.
Roco helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olson.
Welcome back. I'm here today visiting with Scott McNealy. Scott was a co-founder of Sun Microsystems. And as we pick up the story, Scott, at what point in time did you decide that Sun needed to go public? Or what was the premise behind that?
Well, we went public in '86, which was 4 years after we got started. And the real reason we had to go public was we were a hardware company. We were doing hardware. We had to pay for prototypes. You had to build inventory. You had to put spare parts out in the field, and you had to build sales offices around the world. It's a little different than some of the cloud-based startups today that are basically post office boxes for royalty checks, that sort of thing, and the return on assets is very high. We had a lot of assets, so it was important that we go out and get the lower cost capital in the public markets very early so we could fund our global growth.
How much was funded through your public offering back in '86?
Oh, I don't even remember, but we raised billions of dollars over the years to create Sun.
So as you got all the new cash coming in, and you're sitting at the helm as CEO at that time, how did you manage growth and this influx of? I guess the capital was giving you hyper growth at the time.
Yeah, it was a real challenge because they didn't teach you this in business school. They don't teach you much in business school that is applicable, and I just sort of learned along the way. Most important was hire really great people. Be very courageous about sharing the truth and feedback with any and everybody inside and outside of the organization. I was very participative, but not consensus. So I would get everybody's opinion and then make the decision, or I would say, you're going to make the decision. Now you be very participative and then drive the decision. You can't wait for consensus. That takes far too long. I think leading with integrity and character is incredibly important because nothing will spin out. It will explode an organization quicker than the leader who is a bad guy. And so that was a little tough. You had to lead a little better and nicer life than you would normally lead without the constraints of being responsible for a large organization. And then just being able to deal with change and embracing change. And we always used to say we better cannibalize our own products or somebody else will. And that was the big lead, follow, or get the heck out of the way was another war cry.
So you were there when the internet was just really coming into its own, and Sun played a major role in that.
We invented it. Al Gore says no. We were a major player because, like I said, we were the first company to put IP on every computer that we ever shipped, and then NFS was a major component of that. And China built their internet on our equipment, and Route D was really Route D running on Sun OS on Sun workstations was really how the technology got widely deployed early on.
Mm-hmm. How did Java come about?
Java's a great story because James Gosling, Bill Joy called him the greatest programmer he'd ever seen. So I heard James was unhappy. He came into my office. I called him in and I said, "Why are you unhappy?" He said, "I want to go do something different." I said, "You can't leave the company." He said, "Well," I said, "You go do whatever you want, wherever you want, for as long as you want, with whomever you want. Just come back and tell me once a year. I'll fund anything you want to do." And he said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And so he came back every year and was showing me what he was doing. And he was trying to build a universal clicker, and he had to go invent a language to go do it, which was Java. And all of a sudden, Mark Andreessen came along with Netscape, and we married the Java virtual machine runtime, write once, run anywhere world with the browser, create once and view anywhere HTML environment, HTTP environment. We put the two together, and they both took off like crazy, and boom, the internet age was really launched.
So we fast forward to the current years, and you eventually sold out Sun?
Eventually, Oracle bought us. As a public company, you don't really sell out. Somebody comes and buys you. And I'd stepped down 6 years earlier. I had boys who were 2, 4, 6, and 8 years old, and I told the board, listen, I've been doing this. I've been in the piñata for 20-plus years. I said, let's get somebody new in there. I want to spend some time with my children. And by the way, the one piece of advice I can give any young entrepreneur is the most important decision you will ever make in your career is who you decide to have babies with. Nobody ever tells you that, but making that decision and making a good decision will be a life decision you will either regret forever or appreciate forever. And I happened to make a good decision. We made great babies, and I wanted to spend time with them. So 6 years after I stepped down, Oracle came in and made an offer that the board couldn't refuse, literally, and they acquired Sun Microsystems about 2 years ago.
We're visiting here today with Scott McNealy, the co-founder of Sun Microsystems. We'll be right back after these messages and talk about what Scott's up to today.
Protecting your family's health and welfare is a sacred trust. At Greenstein Rogoff Olson Company, we know that sound financial planning will protect them now and in the future. We're certified public accountants with tax services for the highly successful. For your business and your family, call GrowCo.
Greenstein Rogoff Olson Company will help you manage your financial affairs so you can focus on what's really important in life.
GrowCo, helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olson.
In recent years, as cloud has come in, the cloud computing, and with the offering of clouds, you saw additional opportunities with Curriki and Wayin. Can you tell us about the story there? What got you involved?
Yeah, well, cloud isn't terribly new. Some company a long time ago promoted the idea of the network is the computer. I think that was Sun Microsystems. I think we said that a long time back in the 80s. Actually, we should have been smarter and just called it cloud, but we would have saved a lot of ink. But this has been obviously a strategy, and you saw Eric Schmidt leave and go to Google and really push cloud computing, and anybody who's doing web servers are really pushing cloud computing. But we saw two opportunities. One, at Sun, we created Curriki, which is a K-12 educational website that is giving free and open source educational materials for K-12. So we have over about 50,000 learning assets for free and available open source on the website. We've had over 6.5 million visitors, and it has become the go-to site for K-12 educational materials. We have some great stuff there on the Hunger Games, writing tools on the Hunger Games. When the tsunami hit, we had a whole bunch of stuff on the front page for teachers using supplemental materials. There's textbooks. Anyhow, we're assembling the entire K-12 educational experience, free and open source, on that site over time. Very exciting.
Are these users throughout the world, or is there a concentration within it?
It's a global effort, mostly English-speaking right now, although all the products can be localized, and there's lots of Spanish language stuff there also. China is very excited about it. Asia is using it very aggressively. So it's a global and international resource. Again, it's all free. It's a .org. Anybody who wants to donate, go to Curriki.org, Curriki.org, and hit the donate button. We can all use your help here.
So when you're looking at the education, online education, this is becoming a hot area in the cloud today because of trying to unify learning models throughout the world. Where do you see this going in like 3 to 5 years?
Well, some people are going to want to see the continued $15 billion a year on textbooks and educational materials continue on, and that's kind of the oligopoly of the current players. Apple came in and created their ebook, and they just got hit with a lawsuit by the government for price fixing as they've tried to create a proprietary environment around the Apple ebook answer. And we're part of the open community that says let's share and be open, and why should we pay $130 for a third-grade math textbook when nothing's happened since Newton got hit on the head with an apple? And when 10 plus 10 was, is, and will be 20 for a long period of time, and we can get open, internet-enabled, real-time scoring, web-enabled multimedia, and get kids enjoying the computing experience on a self-paced basis. So that's what we're trying to drive towards.
Recently I had dinner with Robin Lee, who's the founder of Baidu, and he made the comment, he says, in China, about 20% of the users or the population currently has a computer within their home. And he saw that within 5 years, that number would go to 60%. In the online education model, do you feel that overall with the advent of open source with Curriki that this is actually lifting the education models in third world countries too? And
absolutely. I mean, just think about the $15 billion a year we spend every year annually once a year. I went to both secretaries of education, Spelling and Duncan, and said, can you give me $150 million? I will eliminate the need for anybody to ever have to spend any money on education. They looked at me like I was on drugs. We should just absolutely shut down the Department of Education at the United States level. But one of the other things I'm trying to do to fix that is the most important thing to drive education to the next level, in my view, the holy grail, the secret sauce, is going to be real-time scoring, which will allow self-paced, which will allow people to pursue their passions, slow down when they can't get it, go faster when they do get it. And instead of no child left behind, we have no parent, teacher, or child held back. And Wayin, which is my other, Wayin.com, Wayin, is a one-to-many conversation tool that is very popular among enterprises, very popular among sports and media environments. It allows you to have an interactive second-screen conversation as a celebrity, as a TV show, as an enterprise, as a government agency, and as a teacher, because we have the ability to create very quick conversations and questions with right answers and wrong answers, make up your own answers, all kinds of very cool ideas. It's all mobile-based, real-time, zero polling fatigue, zero authoring fatigue, very, very graphical and with evocative pictures. It's an exciting new way to change education. In fact, if you go to the Curriki homepage, right on front is some Wayin questions that you can answer, and you develop demographics, you develop and understand confirmed sentiment, and most importantly, confirmed intent, which is what everybody is out after. There's, 12 million people following Obama on Twitter, but how many love him versus how many of them hate him? We don't know. But with Wayin and with TwitPolls, which is the latest product we've launched at twitpolls.com, you can actually turn Twitter from a one-to-many broadcast, as this radio show is, into a one-to-many conversation. And in fact, this radio show could use Wayin to create a conversation among all of its followers and listeners. And that's how we're going to drive the internet and education and entertainment and government agencies, hopefully, into a more conversive and open and democratic and transparent world.
Well, first of all, we are going to add Wayin into this site and
cool.
Moving forward. But it seems that it really, with Wayin, it takes the bias out of what's happening there. You're no longer putting it in the hands of the producer and saying this is the way that we would like things to be thought of.
We have a very big opportunity with human resources organizations who want to do employee sensing, but it is so open there. We do have the ability to have a private conversation, but the beauty of Wayin is that everybody sees the results immediately. So I know that you know that I know that you know. And think about going into Libya and going around the Gaddafi-controlled media and saying, what do you think of the no-fly? What do you think of regime change? All the rest of it. And all of a sudden, Gaddafi can't stand behind, or any other dictator or bad guy can't stand behind their state-owned media. Now we have an over-the-air media and conversation tool that we think will be very powerful. And a next step, we all know that the internet has definitely driven government and international affairs in quite an interesting way that we think. And in fact, Wayin is very popular. My favorite candidate, Mitt Romney, is using Wayin, as well as people like Frank Luntz are using Wayin to help have conversations on the political front, which is probably the most active area on Wayin right now.
I like the voice of Wayin is able to collaborate many voices and pull specifically how people are feeling about certain issues. And, I like the fact that this immediate feedback comes into, for in this case, politics. People are listening. They can get their voice out and be heard.
I ran a quick twit poll yesterday asking, did Instagram, Facebook paid too much for Instagram, and 82% of the people said that they overpaid for Instagram, which I thought was kind of an interesting statistic.
Well, we've been visiting here today with Scott McNealy. Scott, quick plug. If people want to follow you on Twitter, how would they do that, or Wayin?
You can follow me, Scott McNealy, on Wayin, WAYIN.com, and then at Scott McNealy on Twitter. So there you have it.
Scott, thanks for joining today's show.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're listening to American Dreams with Alan Olson on AM 1220 KDOW.